Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full on follow along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Aaron Guyett, Master Coach and Education Director here at LivingFit, and we are on the LivingFit Show, and we have the incredible pleasure and honor to have Matthew Chenard on here. So the cool part for me about having Matt on here is that I got to know him more as a friend and as a brother, and then I got to get inside of his mind and inside of the machine that is Greater Purpose Health and Fitness, which is located, it's a gym that's located in Camrose, Alberta. So he's our neighbor to the north. I'm sorry, I did that. I shouldn't have done that, but it's low-hanging fruit. But thank you so much for hopping on, Matt. I'm really stoked to talk to you about fitness and holistic fitness and all things basically health and wellness.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Aaron. I'm pumped to be here as well. And we can say A as much as we want. I'm good with that. Yeah. I'm used to it.
I mean, y'all do say A lot, but we say y'all a lot, or at least those of us from Texas and some of the rural areas, I guess. So how did you get into fitness? Obviously you own a gym, and well, there's a whole story behind COVID and all that stuff, but I would like to focus in on what it is that you do and all of that stuff. So what kind of brought you to that realm? What got you into this thing that is fitness?
Yeah, I played competitive sports my whole life, predominantly hockey. I started to specialize in hockey, I would say, when I was 12, maybe more towards 15. And that's about the same time I started working out to try to excel, try to get a leg up on the competition and tryouts. And I found out I really enjoyed the fitness aspect. I enjoyed playing hockey, but I enjoyed pushing myself. I like the mental aspect. I like seeing how I can improve my body to make myself a better player for the season. And then as it went on, I continued to play traveling hockey, competitive hockey, was listed with the WHL team, which is semi-professional.
Yeah, wait, hold on. We got to stop you right there. WHL, which team?
Saskatoon Blades.
Oh, there you go. And did you play the Chiefs then, by chance?
I didn't actually make the team. So I was listed when I was 16. I was all 6'5" and 190 pounds. And I had just put on 20 pounds that summer. So I'm tall, but I had a hard time putting on weight. So that's kind of where my fitness journey started. I had to eat so much food. I had to exercise so much because originally I was 6'4", 160 pounds. So just to put that weight on, right? Every single summer, I had to keep.
You look kind of like this thing right here, this little.
Yeah, exactly. Tall, lanky, skilled hockey player, but I just didn't have the size, and it took me time, right? So I had the skill to play there, but I just hadn't developed physically yet. So that held me back, I would say. But I mean, I had a lot of good chances. Played some junior A hockey around, finished in college, played some years at a Bible school, and then as I was at school, I saw this commercial for CrossFit, and it's the only commercial I ever saw on TV. They were working out in the sea can, and it looked grungy. It looked awesome. And I researched it, couldn't figure anything out. That was probably 2010. And then things started to come up more and more. Long story short, from there, got my training certificates after I did some construction work for a while, started training people, opened up our affiliate in a garage. And then now it's expanded into Greater Purpose Health and Fitness, which is the home of our CrossFit affiliate, CrossFit Camrose.
Nice. And so Greater Purpose, obviously that denotes, I mean, that can be fairly ambiguous, but I feel like, well, first of all, let me go digress. Let me go all the way back. I'm very saddened that you didn't play our Spokane Chiefs. I grew up watching the Chiefs in the WHL, and screaming and watching other boozed up people scream obscenities at all the other teams that came in. My christening actually into watching hockey was, I don't know, I must have been 6 years old, 8 years old, something like this. And I'm walking. We're getting into ice seats, like just off the ice. They had like, it was the old Coliseum in Spokane. Now they've got this rad arena. But I'm like walking under like I don't know what you call them, the pavilion seats or the seats that are elevated up or whatever. And I got an entire beer dumped on my head. So it was like true hockey baptism.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And from then on, it was like, I wish I would have and could have played a whole lot more. We just didn't have the development process or whatever, like that we have for soccer or football or something like that. You know,
it's
not
Canada,
like Canada where
it's
you're
all
born
hockey
with skates on. Yeah.
100%. I'm even missing my 2 front teeth still, so they're fake.
I know. I saw old pictures of you, and I'm like, that's so awesome. He really did live it. He really did.
I did. Yeah, 100%.
Sweet. Anyway, so okay, well, let's go back forward. So obviously, there's more to purpose than just, exercise and moving your body and doing a WOD or something like that. So talk me through, why is it called greater purpose? What's the idea behind it? And then maybe we'll divert and go into some of that stuff and some of the stuff that you're doing now with that.
Yeah. The greater purpose, I wrote up on a whiteboard. I love whiteboarding, having ideas put on a whiteboard. About 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know what the word purpose meant in terms of health and fitness, but I had it in my mind. And then the pandemic actually kind of brought it to fruition, right? It helped us rebrand, create this idea. And the reason we rebranded, and so we still have CrossFit at the base of it as a modality, but we rebranded because I see fitness is more than just the physical, 100%. Right? It's connection. It's the spiritual aspect. It is the purpose aspect, right? Like there's places in the world, the blue zones of the world, they live to be this thriving old age because they invest in all these areas. It's not because they're super jacked or super fit. Maybe they are, but that's not the one reason they are. So to me, that's kind of the all-encompassing holistic idea of it is you're investing in your relationships. You're investing in your physical health. You're investing in your spiritual health. You're investing in your purpose, or what are you good at? What gives you life, type of thing. And to me, that's the idea of the name greater purpose, right? We're built for a purpose. We're built for a purpose, and we should be investing in everything we've been given to steward it, to invest in others, to use our gifts, to use our bodies, and to take care of it. And there's a greater purpose to working out than just getting jacked, which is not a bad goal, but it should be for a purpose. There should be something deeper behind it.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. So then walk me through, what does that look like? How does that function at the fitness facility or at the gym, at your health and fitness gym? Because I mean, I can envision it's a gym and it's a box because it's CrossFit is kind of the foundational piece to this particular box. So I can already see the space. I can see the whiteboarded WODs, workouts of the day and stuff like that. But then beyond obviously, hey, here's a coach and the coach is going to guide you through these movements. What do you guys do? How do you guys insert the other aspects of this beyond just the movement?
Yeah. And this is where actually the pandemic came into play again. I saw there needed to be something different. There needs to be a different way of doing this. So like you said, we have group class, we have personal training, we have nutrition coaching, we have sports teams, we have teens classes, we have all these different services, but there needed to be something that was layered on top of it to help people actually invest in the other aspects of life. And I've been wrestling with this idea for a while. And how do you measure the importance of connection? How do you measure the importance of doing something you love to do for an occupation? And what I kind of came up with, and it's still a working model, but is the idea of fitness banking, right? So we're making daily deposits into all these aspects of our lives. So that's kind of what we do as coaches is we have coaches meetings with our clients, the ones that really want to expedite their health and fitness and want to get that all well-rounded health and fitness. And we say, hey, you're going to deposit your time and energy into this over the next 4 weeks. So as an example, it might be, hey, go for a cup of coffee with a friend once a week, and you're going to check off that you did it. Go for a workout 4 times a week. Drink a glass of water every single morning. So the idea is you're taking your time and you're creating deposits and you're building up this credit, because we know very well that life is going to withdraw from that bank account, that fitness bank account. And if you don't have anything in that account, you're kind of left hanging, right? You're going to go into debt, and debt being in fitness is you go from fitness to sickness. And when you're at sickness already and you fall, injure yourself, or you get sick, you're going to go way further in debt. And that manifests as injuries, chronic pain, depression, all these different things.
Man, I freaking love this. I love that whole concept. So is it driven by the coach, or is it driven by the client, or is there some sort of symbiotic relationship between the two? How does one choose, what areas to deposit? How do you bifurcate that or categorize that? And then how much you need to deposit in any one of these areas?
Yeah. So I've developed something it's an audit system. So just on a simple Excel sheet as part of our tracker, I have purpose, family, connection, financial is in there too, physical, mental, and spiritual. And then we do subjective measurements. And we say, hey, out of 10, like 10 being amazing and 1 being awful, where are you in all these? And then we take an average. And then what I like to do is I say, hey, the bottom 3 of these, like physically you're not feeling great. And we can take other markers, like we do blood testing as part of this too. Oh, wow. We do biometric testing, so body fat percentage, resting heart rate, whatever we need to do to get measurements. But then we take these more subjective measurements and we say, okay, we go to the habit bank, so our deposit bank. So I've created a list of things that, hey, these are what I have found to be helpful for someone to get closer to that 10 out of 10. So we take that deposit, put it into their tracker, and then they do that every single week. And they focus less on the outcome and more on the action. And when I find when people do that, they get fulfillment in the process, and then the outcome just happens, the byproduct of weight loss or muscle gain, better relationships, whatever it is. They're not focused on it as much, which actually enables them to get there faster in a way.
It's interesting that you've, created this Excel spreadsheet, and obviously then it's led by both coach and client, because the client has to put their subjective measurements in there, but then coach can give suggestions, and obviously there is categories. Because I think every trainer and coach ends up doing this inevitably anyways, as a byproduct of spending time with another person. Oftentimes it's a complaint that I hear all the time. It's like, oh, I'm not a physical therapist, or I'm not a clinical therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've become one because so-and-so is complaining about such and such. And obviously that happens a lot more in the one-on-one sessions, because there's a lot more conversation and dialogue that goes back and forth between sets and during sets and all of that stuff. But it still happens even in the group. But man, it's so awesome, because it sounds like you've just taken it head on and like, oh, we're going to actually do what we're allowed to do. Now, obviously you're not, diagnosing anybody with any sort of mental thing. So you're not getting above your pay grade. And I'm sure, you can always refer up and out for just like an orthopedic surgeon. It's like, yeah, your knee looks messed up. It feels messed up. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not a physiologist. So I'm going to refer you out to this person. Same thing with probably mental stuff, I'm guessing. But man, what 100%. A proactive approach, as opposed to, inevitably having to react to people's, quality of life issues, right? Fitness issues.
And that's it right there. It's the proactive and not reactive, right? You look around in the world, we have so many chronic conditions that develop from chronic poor habits. And so many people are trying to attack these chronic issues with acute interventions, right? So that's where the coach comes into play, and we almost act as a distraction, right? It's like, hey, this is going to take a long time, but let's get you wins every single day. And these wins are checking off your deposit. Hey, I invested into my wife. So as an example, sometimes for my men's group, I put one love language action toward my wife a day. And that's part of their tracker. That's part of their fitness, right beside something about, hey, I go for a CrossFit workout, or I go for a run, I go for a ruck, whatever it might be. That's the idea of holistic fitness in my mind and what we're trying to do. And that gets someone more well-rounded. And it's the mental, physical, spiritual aspect of it all.
Yeah, man, this is such gold. So, what about, I mean, we've had a few Canadian personalities, people on the show. Been fortunate enough to have our Canadian brethren and sisters hop on, tell some stories, right? Talk about their stuff. But as you know, like if somebody's in BC, or if somebody's in DC, or if somebody's in Florida, they're not in Camrose. They're not in Alberta.
No.
Is there an option for them? Because I'm fairly certain you're probably hitting a pretty sensitive bone for people, so to speak, where they're like, dang, I didn't even think about that. They're a trainer or a gym owner or even a client. They're like, man, I didn't even realize that I could have been doing some sort of quantifying of what's going on, and then some sort of active, action to at least help, if not maybe even heal some of these problem areas. Is there a way for them to get in contact with you and learn some of this stuff?
Yes. I started my online movement for this type of programming, I guess it would be 2 years ago. And it's really starting to get traction now. And I'm creating communities where they can communicate. But the great thing about this idea of coaching people is it doesn't have to be me who's facilitating the fitness aspect. So what I mean by that is if I'm the coach and I'm telling someone I'm working with someone from DC, or I'm working with someone from Florida, like I have someone from Florida I'm working with, I don't necessarily have to be their physical trainer, right? I can give them programming. I can do Zoom calls with them to train them, to watch their movement.
Another silver lining of COVID.
Exactly.
People weren't doing it already. They're doing it now.
100%. And that actually changed our model almost completely, right? Where we're predominantly a lot of this coaching aspect. So if I'm not training them, it doesn't matter if maybe he goes to a gym somewhere else down there. But the idea is that I'm helping him be intentional about investing in his fitness. So I'm almost the guide in it. The coach is the guide, and then someone else can facilitate. Because at our home gym, we have two different types of team members now. It's the trainer or the coach. The coach is this person who guides the deposits. The trainer is the one who facilitates the exercise.
Oh, that's so cool. I often, I'll just say trainer and coach, or trainer or coach, because there is this weird split, and some people are like, trainers suck, because it's almost like saying like manager or leader, right? It's like this, no, you still need managers, you still need trainers.
Yes.
Right. But you also need coaches. And we can, those of us in the fitness industry can choose both or either or. And a lot of that I think should delve out of strengths or whatever, but I love that you've just like named it and claimed it, right? So to speak. It's like, no, we've got trainers that are going to facilitate your exercise. And then we've got coaches that are going to be your Sherpa to get you to the top of your mountain, whatever that mountain might be. I love that. I love that.
Well, and also people are gifted in different ways, right? I'm someone who loves to think abstractly and loves to connect and loves to talk about these deeper things. But I have teammates who just are extremely good at seeing movement and correcting movement, right? They're more of that tactile type person. So why not enable them to do more of that? And someone like me, hey, I get to sit down and talk with people about meaningful things, and I love it.
Yeah. So then talk me through, is there two different types of client that you have? I mean, I guess there is if you're at least online, but in your gym, is there two different types of clients, or they're coming for, or customer, or I don't know what you call them, teammates, community members. I don't know, but
members,
are some of them coming just for improvement in their quality of life, improvement in their fitness, holistically speaking? And then some, doing a bit of both, where they're doing the holistic work, but they're also coming to get their sweat on.
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of both. I don't think people necessarily come in thinking I want to have a more fulfilling life, because it's a hard thing to measure. Right? So people come in, we have an interview, we go through this process, and based on the conversation, we then recommend which path they go. Right? So I kind of think of this, and I'm sure you've noticed this by now, is I like to think abstractly. I like to have images of this stuff, but I think of it as climbing a mountain, right? The bottom is the starting period. The top is the summit. And along the way, there's base camps, right? As you climb to the next base camp, you're gaining the ability to be at that new elevation, that new altitude, but you have to go back down to the next base camp. So you're building these habits, but you have a base camp to go down to after that. And what usually happens is people start on the side of the mountain without a guide, without anything else, and they try this extremely hard program. They get really high, but they haven't acclimated to the altitude. So they just slide back down. They keep trying to climb this mountain. Yeah. So then in our gym, we have about 4 different paths that someone can summit. One path might have 4 base camps because it's the coaching aspect, right? We know the route. We're going to give them everything they possibly need to get there faster. Another path might have 8 base camps because they're just doing fitness. And the other one will have fitness and nutrition without that coaching aspect. And so they can choose their path, but it's based on where they are in their life then and how fast they want to get there. And then once they summit, hey, let's find the next summit and the next summit and keep doing that over and over again.
You answered the question that I was going to ask. I was like, well, what happens when they summit then?
Yeah.
There's always other mountains to summit, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have an issue? So there's 2 issues that I could see possibly happening, and then maybe how you deal with those. So do you have an issue with people that get to the summit? Okay, I've made it, and then just sort of devolve or default back to old habits and old selves stuff. And if you do have that issue, how do you at least try to mitigate that if you can?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes down to the education process on the way to the summit and helping people find the joy in the climb itself and not just the summit. Because we were actually talking about climbing a mountain, right? You're at the top. It's beautiful, right? You see the summit, but you can't stay up there for a long time, right? You want to, because you want to appreciate it, but you have to go back down. So then it's about finding the meaning in the process itself. Yeah. And that's how I try to articulate it to people is, hey, the daily deposits is actually the meaningful part. You're going to hit this milestone. You're going to hit a record deadlift. You're going to lose weight, but it's going to be a momentary thing. And that's why we have to find the joy in the process. Just like it's much more meaningful to look at the amazing view at the summit if you've climbed the mountain. Yeah. I can take a helicopter, but it's not going to mean as much, right? Because I know what went into it before, and then you fall in love with the process. Yeah. Yeah. Earning it, but then, and then also then appreciating it. And there's something about that for sure. And you said that before, it's like most of this, like at the beginning of the talk, you're like, they get really, jazzed or pumped on the process. And so then the results inevitably happen. The summit inevitably happens, and you can appreciate then the summit, but you're already so appreciating that process and appreciating those moments, those moment to moment, day to day journey steps. And that's, we kind of think of
fit and fitness as this journey, and it's this lifelong journey that we get to partake in, whether we agree that we're partaking in it or not, whether we choose consciously to actually partake in it or not, we still are, whether our fit is good or it's not, it's declining, just it is. Okay. So then the other issue that I would foresee, and it would be interesting to see if your experience is this, if you observe this, and then what you would do in these scenarios. So obviously there's going to be some people that think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and their subjective metric marks are going to denote that. And then there's other people that are going to think that they're the worst thing ever. And then their, marks are going to denote that in their subjective response. So how do you observe this? And then how do you combat that? I maybe combat it is a bad word, because not necessarily fight it, but how do you work with that?
That's another really good question. And I guess it comes down to a self-awareness thing. And maybe the first time they do it, they're not that self-aware yet, whether they're really exaggerating it or they're really playing it down. But I think through the process of pursuing something new, you gain a lot more self-awareness, right? You gain where you actually are on that mountain. And the next check-in, maybe it's a little more, maybe we've had a few conversations and they open up, they're a little more vulnerable and like, I don't think I am where I thought I was, or in comparison to where I want to be. Because the idea, I really kind of want to revamp the way people think of goals. I think goals are important, but goals just act as like visions, missions, goals, whatever it might be, milestones. It acts as a way to pull you towards something that's going to refine you in the process. So it's not about trying to deadlift 500 pounds just for the sake of deadlifting 500 pounds, because it's an arbitrary number. Why not 600? But it's actually, you're getting stronger to do it. Like, who's the person that's saying it has to be exactly 600? So why not 559? Right? You're just pulling something that you've seen someone else tell you it should be. But in reality, you're just becoming stronger in the process to give you the ability to do more outside the gym. So that's all around saying, maybe it's about finding that self-awareness in the journey so they can measure it more accurately along the way.
And it's really hard to be self-aware of where you're at in any one of these areas if you've never taken the time to think about it before. So you get asked these questions, and chances are you're probably just, blindfolded throwing darts at the numbers that you're putting on there. But then once you put the number on there, I'd have to guess that you're going to be a little bit more observant and be a little bit more aware of what's going on that made you generate that number. If you have even the slightest inkling of some introspection, right? Some bit of self-awareness. And then I guess the, perpetual narcissist or whatever might just be like, no, I'm amazing in all areas and aspects of my life. I was like, well, then I guess we're not here for you because you've already made it.
And they probably won't sign up for the program. Because in that interview process, I dig really deep and I actually want to see what your struggles are more than I want to hear about how great you are. No, I love that. So then if they're outside of, obviously if they're in Camrose and you haven't already signed up by this point in this conversation, I don't know what you're doing, still listening to us and not signing up. But no, keep listening. But if you're outside of Alberta and outside of Camrose, what would be the process by which they would sign up and then have that initial conversation? Just send me a message on social media, and then there's a couple different ways I go from there. If I know you really well, we'll hop on a call. But if I don't really know you, I will ask you to fill out, it's kind of like an application. And I will ask you those questions to say, hey, where are you in all these categories of life? And out of 10, and then saying, what do you struggle with? What do you want to get better at? And then we book a call from there. because I really want to make sure that someone's ready, right? That someone has to be at least somewhat ready to climb that mountain. They have to be in a place and to be able to invest mentally and with their energy to get the most out of it. So reach out to me on social media.
And so then, and then they're either filling out the questionnaire and then jumping on an interview, or just jumping into an interview, right?
Yeah, jumping into a 10-minute call, and then we really dig deep from there. It's quite the process, and I do that intentionally because I want to make sure that I know I can help you, but you're also ready to be helped.
Yeah, and that's so good. That's something that I'll do for any new employee that I'm hiring, or any new team member. It's like I'm gonna put you through at least somewhat trying of a process, because if you're not willing to go through this little bit of challenge to be on the team, then chances are you probably really didn't. You were just kind of kicking the tires of the thing. And if you're kicking the tires, like, that's not getting in the car and going down the road. Like, let's get in the car and go down the road if you want to get in the car. Go down. If you don't, like, hey, it doesn't hurt my feelings. So, like, you can keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. It's actually better that way, because then there won't be any resentment and any sort of friction or any sort of problem, down the road, because, you had some weird uncommunicated expectation and I did too, or something. It's like everything's communicated up front. I love that. Man, this has been a power-packed 30 minutes. That's a tight 30 right there.
We did it. Yeah.
And I think, because I did want to go into I had a few other topics that I had in mind, but I'm going to close it off right here. I think this is the perfect place to tie a bow on it, but then say, hey, we need to have you back on. We need to go into the next topics, because there's a lot more to talk about, I think, especially the way your mind works. I love how you've processed this and how you've organized this to be able to deliver such high value to anybody that's coming into contact with your organization, let's say, right? Because it's beyond just a gym, for sure. It's a community, and I can totally tell. So the question that we ask all of our guests at the end of the show is, and we've already been talking about it, I feel like, but it is, what is LivingFit to you? And obviously not LivingFit the brand, but this idea, this concept that is LivingFit.
It's all encompassing, right? It's one thing, but it's everything. It's getting out of balance to be in balance. It's auditing all these different areas of your life to realize it's not about making it. It's not about getting this certain aesthetic. It's not about accomplishing this certain race and then you're done. It's about just living it out every single day. And whatever that means, whatever energy you have, in whatever capacity, you're in the journey, you're committed to the process, you're intentional about these deposits. And it's about stepping, I guess I'll kind of capture it like this. It's about stepping into that person you want to be, acting as if you're already that fit person. And maybe you can't do 10 pull-ups, but if you say, I can't do 10 pull-ups, instead of saying, I'm the person who will be able to do 10 pull-ups, right? You're continually stepping into that person you could be. That's the idea of LivingFit for me. It's just a part of you. It's not something you do. It's just continuing to be intentional day after day.
Man, I love that. I love the idea of deposits. I love the idea of summiting and base camps. Matt, this has been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for hopping on the LivingFit Show.
Thanks, Aaron. Always happy to jam.
Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to living.fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.